I'm Greg Tepper. That's Greg Powers. And this is This Week
in Cruton.
It's This Week in Recruiting with our good buddy, Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete, our good chicken buddy, Greg Powers. Brought to you by our friends at Chicken Express, our good chicken friends at Chicken Express. Powers, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody here as well. It's going to be an exciting episode I'm really excited about today.
This is, we've got you here for one of two segments, but we're going to start with the important stuff. Well,
we'll see.
Guess. I don't know. Christmas draft's pretty important. But National Signing Day, well, not really, Early Signing Day.
Early signing period.
Early signing
period
has come along. And it always hits us in a weird way because we're always at state championship games and things like that. But early signing period has come. And we have some actual recruits to talk about, some actual signees to talk about. You've got a great piece up on TexasFootball.com/recruiting where you rank the 2021 recruiting classes in the state of Texas. And let's start at the top because I think that's where probably everybody wants to start, which is, well, I don't think there's really any question who had the top recruiting class in the state. It's those Aggies from College Station.
Definitely. And I as I reflect back on the year that was in recruiting, I feel like, and, justifiably so, we've spent a lot of time talking about how well the Oklahoma Sooners have recruited in the state of Texas. Well, now that the ink is dried on the letter of intents come the early signing period, now that's come and gone, Texas A&M's recruiting class is rated ahead of Oklahoma's. So we need to give some credit to Jimbo Fisher, his staff there, what they not only accomplished on the field this season, but what they have accomplished off the field in recruiting in what's been a very difficult year, and they closed ever so strong. And really that's the thing that he was able to hang his hat on at Florida State, and he's brought that to Texas A&M with him, the ability to close on top recruits down the stretch. And getting Bryce Foster, the Mountain, the strongest man in the world, 5-star DCTF 5-star super team member, everything offensive lineman on the last day of the early signing period was ever so huge. And also to get Shamar Turner and Tunmishi Adelaide on the defensive front coming down the stretch. I mean, just a great job in the trenches. That's what really stands out to me. This team in the trenches is going to be completely different moving forward. They've got road graders and tanks and buses and Mack trucks, all the descriptive terms you can put out there for defensive and offensive line.
Well, and, we talked about A&M having a strong class even before the early signing period. But is it fair to say from my dumb guy perspective that going into the signing period, we thought they have a really good class. And coming out of this early signing period, we're saying they have, I don't even know if you need to say borderline, but elite class.
Yeah, it's a top 10 national class. I mean, borderlining on that top 5. I think 24/7 Sports has them rated number 7. But again, what they did on the offensive and defensive line is really instantly going to make that a kind of different team, especially on the defensive side of the football. What they did at defensive end is really special. But, we didn't even talk about Remington Strickland, newly minted DCTF 4-star, who I think is number 26 in the state, that they signed but got a commitment from just a couple days or 24 hours after they did from Shamar Turner at DeSoto. And then to get Tunmiche on national signing the first day of the early signing period and to close with Bryce Foster, who actually was a bit of a surprise to some people. I mean, a lot of people out there thought that he was going to Oklahoma. So really turned the tides in that recruitment, and he's going to stay in state.
You've got Texas as the number 2 class in the state. For all the hand wringing, they finished pretty strong. Ended up holding on to Jatavian Sanders at Denton Ryan, which I think is probably their biggest prospect to haul in. They get 12 of the top 100. Dave Campbell's Hot 100 there. Baylor ranks 3rd. A variety of offensive stars there. But I want to talk about what comes next, because to me, the real surprise on this list is it's not a surprise that A&M and Texas are 1-2 in some way, right? I think we all could have, 5 years ago, I could have predicted that, right? But what's interesting to me, we've got SMU 4th, we got UTSA 6th. I mean, that's ahead of a couple of Power 5 programs like Texas Tech. That's ahead of Houston, who is known as probably the strongest group of 5 team in the state of Texas. I mean, for UTSA and for SMU, this has to be a rousing success of a recruiting cycle.
Well, if you're UTSA and you beat a Power 5 school, that's never happened. I'm just going to – it's not probably a very deep ledge to jump off. That's never happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's never happened. Jeff Traylor's done a tremendous job down there in his first year, not only finding recruits, but recruiting some guys who can come in and make, I think, a quick difference and add to what they're going to be bringing in from the transfer portal. I think that's going to be really important for them as well. As a matter of fact, they've already signed Ron Tatum, who was an All-American defensive lineman, who was at one time at Oklahoma. So they're already starting to add pieces to that team that's going to help keep them on the winning side of things on the field on Saturdays. And they're bringing in complementary high school prospects to add to that mix. And I think that is a very smart way to attack the process if you're Jeff Traylor and his staff there in San Antonio. And really all credit to SMU. The line between Baylor at 3 and SMU at 4 was ever so close. I mean, I debated for a decent amount of time whether who was third and who was fourth. Mm-hmm. Dave Aranda and his staff did a tremendous job of evaluating talent this year, because up and down that list are all guys who I think can play, whether they're rated 3 stars or 4 stars, or they found them after they lost a commitment. You know, sometimes fans look at that and say, oh, well, we lost Hal Presley and then we had to take this guy. Well, the guy that they replaced him with, Monterey Baldwin from Colleen Shoemaker, was someone that no one knew about and is a baller on tape. So, I mean, they've done a tremendous job up and down the list of evaluating talent. But SMU went up against Power 5 schools for almost every kid that's on their list, in multiple Power 5 schools, and were able to sign them. And, of course, we've talked about him multiple times. Preston Stone is at the top of that group, but just go ahead and check out the actual in-state signing day list. We have another separate article outside of this that you can click on from, you know, the rankings list to do a deeper dive into SMU's class. Look at some of their players on film. We have capsules and highlights and all their profiles. So check some of these guys out. These guys are going to be adding to that talent on the field for SMU for a long time to come. And I kind of liken them in this article to what Bill Snyder did at Kansas State in the Big 12. They're able to get good high school players, mix them in with transfer players, and that gives them a product right now that can compete with anybody in the country on Saturday.
So I'm going to put you in a tough spot. It's Greg Powers, next level athlete here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, #TF Today. I'm going to put you in a tough spot. When you look at the 12 FBS classes in the state of Texas, whose is the most disappointing? I mean, obviously, look, like Rice is held to a different standard than A&M, right? I think, and understandably so. There is that gap, and I think, but I would say relative to expectations.
It's not that difficult.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not that difficult, because all the way down to Rice did a tremendous job this year. As a matter of fact, if you look at the last 3 years, they're finished over 20 spots higher in the national ratings than they have if you come on average. So Rice did a bang-up job this year.
Maximum hoot.
Yeah.
Hooting intensifies.
They did a bang-up job in recruiting. Similar to UTSA and SMU, Rice has out-recruited what they normally do. And you should really pat Bloomgren and his staff on the back as well for what they did, because it's a really good class. It's further down the list. They didn't have as many guys, and it's tougher to recruit at Rice. But Houston is clearly the team, to me, this year that has had poor recruiting up to this point. Now, there's still time for them to turn that around before the final national signing day on February 3rd. They're probably going to try to themselves mix in some transfers as well. I mean, it's a heavy transfer portal year this year. There's a lot of guys who have eligibility and are looking for places to play next year. So Houston may take advantage of that. It may be too quick to judge them, but as it sits right now, from what your expectations are, Houston is at the bottom of that list, and you really can't rate Texas State and UTEP. They only announced one signing each. So, I mean, sure, I'm guessing that's a huge disappointment if you're fans of those programs. There's like literally nothing to read about when it comes to recruiting for those two schools. But I kind of give them a pass in some regards, because you don't know, right, who's going to be a member of their class come February. Maybe they're waiting it out to try to get a better quality player on that list on February 3rd. But you can't rate them because they only signed one player. So Houston is the I guess the loser, I guess, is what you're going to say for right now, but still time.
Still a lot of time. That's what's important, is that this is only the early signing period. There's, we're still got a couple of months before we get to National Signing Day, or a month and a half or so before we get to National Signing Day. But between then and now is the holidays, and I would imagine you are going to take a little bit of a deep breath and take some time.
Well, and UH fans, don't despair. You got Maddox Kopp, an
Yeah.
Elite 11 quarterback. So, I mean, if
he's
there was one thing like that you really wanted to make sure that you got in your Christmas stocking, this could be the kid because he could be an NFL player one day.
If he's the consolation prize,
Right.
then I would say things are okay. He's Greg Powers, the Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowersScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter, Next Level D1. See his fine work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting. Powers, appreciate your time, and we'll see you in just a second.